Time for a Men in Great book review. Parachute Kids, a graphic novel by Betty C. Tang, was published in 2023 by Scholastic. It's 286 pages. 17-year-old Jesse, 14-year-old Jason, and 10-year-old Anne are three kids from Taiwan. These names that I just gave you are their Americanized names. They're three kids from Taiwan, and in 1981, February of 1981, their parents take them to Los Angeles for a vacation. They have a wonderful time. They see Disneyland, they see the Universal Studios, they visit the Hollywood sign, they go to Grauman's Chinese Theater, they eat at a Chinese restaurant, have a great time, and then the parents drop a bombshell on them. They're not going home. The political situation in Taiwan has gotten unstable. They're worried that their kids won't be safe, so they've decided to move their kids to Los Angeles. The problem is they're on a 30-day tourist visa, so dad has to go home and go back to work to raise money to support the family. Well, the kids are shocked that they haven't been told this. And the mother stays behind, and they enroll in school. Now, Jessie has been studying English in Taiwan, so she speaks English pretty well. Jason is a little, he can do a little bit, but he's not fluent, and Anne doesn't speak English at all. The Taiwanese or the Cantonese language is the whole book's in English, but when they speak Cantonese, the text is in red, and when they speak English, the text is in black. So you can go back and forth and see when they're speaking to each other in which language. And all three of them really struggle in high school. Jessie is determined to get into Harvard, and so she's obsessed with studying for the SAT exam. She wants to try to make a perfect score, but she's putting a lot of pressure on herself. While Jason is having trouble in school because he's this Chinese boy in a school mostly made up of whites, and he gets bullied, and people mock him and so forth. Plus, we find out later in the book that he's a closeted gay teen. So not only does he feel isolated because of being a Chinese kid in America who doesn't speak the language very well, he's also gay at a time, 1980s, when that wasn't very acceptable in the mainstream population. And then Anne has the hardest time of all because she doesn't speak English at all. She doesn't have any friends. She's was an A student in Taiwan. Now she's making zeros because she doesn't know what's going on. They're all having a really hard time. And then a second bombshell is dropped. Mom can't get her visa extended, so she has to go back to Taiwan and leave the kids there, because if she overstays her visa and gets caught, she'll be deported. She'll never be able to come back to the States again. Now, they do have an aunt and uncle who live in the same neighborhood. And so the idea is that Jessie will be kind of the head of the household while she's gone, and they'll, rely on their aunt and uncle to help them out from time to time. But they're basically parachute kids. This is a term that was used for Chinese kids who were dropped off in the United States and left on their own. Because the immigration officials are less likely to deport kids than they are adults. And so they struggle. Jessie really struggles because she's constantly fighting with her brother, and a whole series of problems develop. The aunt and uncle decide to move to Oregon, so they take off, and that means the three of them are there absolutely by themselves, without any parental support at all, and they're all minors. Right, and then there's a whole series of other problems. Each one of them has a serious issue. Jessie falls for a scam and loses most of her money. Anne gets caught shoplifting a video game and gets in big trouble from that. And Jason gets into a fight with a kid when he makes a pass at him and gets shoved down an embankment and fractures his leg and his skull and winds up going to the hospital. So everything seems to be in total disaster. But then Mom is able to come back, and they gradually adjust to life in the United States. It sounds like a really grim story, and it is for part of the way, but they learn to adjust. Both Jessie and Anne wind up getting part-time jobs during the summer to raise money so they can eat, because they're almost out of money after this scam thing. And so it's a much more serious, darker story than usual for these kind of graphic middle school books. They're usually about kind of light subjects, getting a new puppy, having allergies or something like that. This is a much more serious story. And the author, Betty Tang, says in the afterword that she wrote this book to kind of encourage immigrant kids. and to reflect the story of her generation. There were a lot of kids from Taiwan that went through this same experience. She was also a parachute kid. She makes clear in here that this is fiction, but parts of it are based on her life story as well. So if you are interested in learning about this whole culture of immigrants, being dropped off and left on their own, and the struggles that they have adjusting, or if you're Chinese American or Chinese heritage, you'll probably relate to this in a lot of ways. It's really well drawn as well. Betty Tang also worked at several animation studios before turning to books, including DreamWorks. So she worked on a number of big DreamWorks animation films as well. So it's a really good book, and I think even though it's aimed at middle school kids, I think adults will get a lot out of it as well. Again, as I said, it's a lot more serious than the average middle school graphic novel is. The book is Parachute Kids. The author is Betty C. Tang. This has been another Man in Gray book review. Thanks for watching.